Yeah, here's the deal. As you guys know, I'm a tour guide, and it's time to do what all you guys came here to do in the basement and Lower East Side, and that is take a tour of a different neighborhood. It's tour time, baby. Yeah. All right. Look at that. I'm all business sometimes, but I'm also a party guy and dabbing rat. All right. Today, we've done lots of different neighborhoods here in these tours. We've done the Lower East Side, East Village, we've done Greenwich Village, we've done a bunch, man. This is the 10th show. Gonna keep it going, man, with another neighborhood that is a big favorite of mine. I love this neighborhood. Let's talk about Washington Heights, baby. Yeah, that's right, El Sabor Latino, hombre. That's right. Or Sabor Latino, am I saying that right? Okay, let's do this, baby. All right. So, Washington Heights is called that because it's actually elevated. It's elevated. Isn't that crazy? It's actually the highest point in the entire city. Look at that, 265 feet. That's actually located right there in a park up in Washington Heights, the highest point in New York. That's 265 feet, by the way. That's almost 30 stories up. I did that math in my head. No big deal. So it is the highest point in Manhattan, and this is before weed was legalized. Okay? All right, look at that. We're having fun. Now that actual marker is located in a park. It's called James Gordon Bennett Jr. Park, and that's him. He actually chose to take that picture. I looked it up. He consented to taking that picture, believe it or not. Pretty terrible. But it's actually, this guy is famous for being the head of the New York Herald. You guys may know the New York Herald from Herald Square. That's where it was located. It was a very big newspaper, right? New York Herald, Herald Square. That's where the New York Times got the idea to name Times Square. Look at that. And where Fox News is going to name the upcoming Fox News Square. All right. Moving along, baby. Another thing you got to keep in mind about Washington Heights, this was Native American land, as most of New York was, the Waquaskek. I'm butchering that. Sorry, but that's the actual Wappinger tribe that was located around there. In fact, up in Inwood, they found actual, different arrowheads and all kinds of things. It's important that you mention these things. Some people get upset, but keep in mind, like places like Australia, they actually came out nationally, and the prime minister came out and apologized for what they did to the indigenous Australians before every sporting event. Before every single sporting event, they recognized the fact that the land was that belonged to the indigenous, which is pretty incredible considering that here in the United States, this is how we show up to sporting events. So we got a lot to learn. Now, there's a very important street here called Juan Rodriguez Way. You guys may have been up there, seen that name. You're like, oh yeah, that's he plays for the Mets, I think, right? No. This guy is actually the first ever immigrant who permanently resided in New York City. He came here in 1613 on behalf of the Dutch. He's actually half Portuguese, half African, came from Santo Domingo, and settled here among the natives to trade. Now, they don't know what he actually looked like, but if you go online, you could see different artist depictions. This is one that I found. I figured, well, if there's no actual pictures of them, I should submit my own artist depiction, and hopefully people will use it. Here you go. That's him. I don't know. Maybe someone will give a presentation in the future and use mine. All right, keep it moving. So it became farms, baby. This was farms for a very long time. It was outside of this, pretty far north. This is what it would have looked like back then, all the hills and little farms. Pretty cool. This is actually one of the farms just south. This is in Harlem. This is actually Hamilton Grange. Hamilton Grange, a very famous farm just south. It kind of gives you an idea of what the little houses looked like and everything. And that is obviously where Alexander Hamilton lived. So, actual photo. All right. Keep it moving, baby. American Revolution. This is a very important history here as well. Now, the American Revolution happened, a lot happened in the North. This is actually the last place where the Continental Army kind of escaped out of New York as they were being chased out by the British. There is a fort, and this is it. It's called Fort George, right? Fort George, and it's actually where Washington kind of crossed over into New Jersey and watched as the last of his army was defeated. George Washington crossed over New Jersey, probably used the George Washington Bridge. Okay. I looked, though, for photos, and I was actually able to go into the American Revolution archives, and I found this photo of Washington watching it happen. Pretty incredible. All right, keeping it moving. Here we go. Margaret Corbin, interesting. This is also something you can find, this plaque up there. This is a very cool story. Margaret Corbin was a woman who came to New York with her husband, who was very interested in fighting in the American Revolution, and she tagged along. You know, some wives like to watch hockey with their husbands. She decided to topple a colonizer, so kind of cool. You can kind of, you know, respect that. So she comes, they park it at Fort George, and he's manning the cannon, and he's shot and killed. Is dying lifeless next to her. She was helping him with stuff. She takes over for the next 2 hours while they're getting defeated and gets hit herself, but survives. And to thank her for her service, they gave her this plaque, pretty cool, and she actually was able to join the Army, which is interesting. At a time when women couldn't even vote, she joined the Corps of Invalids. Yeah, I didn't make that up. Sorry, it's a little on the nose. And they actually looked her up because they respected her later on in life, and they dug up her grave and reburied her at West Point, which is a very weird way to honor someone. Anyways, let's keep it moving. So Morris-Jumel Mansion, baby. This is another house up here. Aaron Burr, this is where he lived. So this is a house that was built there, once again, farmland. Aaron Burr actually lived in this house because he married Eliza Jumel, who was a widow, and he was looking after his own interests. This is after he had killed his friend Alexander Hamilton in cold blood. Very, very brutal of him to do, but it also sent him in a spiral, and he looked to kind of save it by marrying this wealthy woman. Aaron Burr was a very, very cold guy, man. A very cold guy. I guess you could call him Aaron Burr. All you dads in the audience know you're going to use that joke. Don't pretend like you're not. All right, let's keep it moving. All right, here we go. So this is also where a man known as Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote Hamilton. He wrote a lot of Hamilton in this house. He used it for inspiration. He came into this room. This was Aaron Burr's bedroom, and actually wrote a lot of the songs that you guys know here in this bedroom. There are actually pictures of him here. There's one here on the bed. Yeah, that's true. This is him on the chair. I couldn't get it because you had to pay extra, but there's one of him in the shower as well. I couldn't. But that's what he did. He actually went there to actually write that. So anyways, we're keeping moving. Mid-1800s, it's still like farms and stuff. You got Trinity Cemetery. You guys may know Trinity Cemetery down next to Wall Street. They actually had to branch out. It was getting too full, so they opened this one. This is the only active cemetery in Manhattan because, baby, that real estate is too much money. They ain't going to have no cemeteries around here. Here famously is buried Clement Clarke Moore, the guy who wrote A Visit from St. Nicholas. Huh? You guys know? 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. That's right. So if you guys want, take your kids over there. You can point out his grave and say, hey, kids, you know that song, that poem, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas? Right beneath you is that man's rotting corpse. All right, keeping it moving, baby. 1904, subways put up, baby. The subway, the first line of the subway is what makes it possible to start inhabiting more. And this is one of the big growth points of New York. If you're ever talking to somebody on a first date, huh? All you hopeless romantics, huh? And you guys get into that obvious discussion that you always get in on dates. What do you think was the major traction of growth in New York? What would you say was the biggest motivator to grow New York from what it was to what it is today? You can say the subway. So it's pretty great. And not for nothing, when you Google subway, New York, weirdly, you get this picture. Very, very weird. I don't know who chooses this costume for themselves, but anyways, let's keep it moving. All right, here we go. So you have immigrants also, very important immigrant neighborhood. You guys all know the Dominicans, we'll talk about them in a second, but you also have Irish. The Irish came in the early 1900s. As the Irish came in the mid-1800s, they came because of the potato famine, all kinds of different things going on. But as they graduated, as the subsequent generations wanted to move on up through New York, they came here. And you have this bar, unfortunately it closed down during COVID, but this is one of the bars that kind of was a testament to that history. Now, by the way, the Irish potato famine was such a devastating thing to the Irish, especially the poor, because it was such an important food for the people there. So because of that, it really devastated the country. That'd be like if, you know, in U.S. Congress, there was a big, fat, corrupt liar sandwich famine. You know? All right. That's a sick burn, baby. Burn notice. I got him. We're taking him down a peg here. All right, let's keep it moving. Hispanic Society of America, right next to the Trinity Cemetery. There's this place. The Hispanic Society of America was founded in the early 1900s by the most Hispanic man on the planet, Archer Milton Huntington. But it's a very cool place where you have like Velázquez, you have Goya, all kinds. It's a very, very interesting place. People forget that that museum's even there. Interesting fact, there's a statue of El Cid outside, a very famous a very famous soldier from the 11th century. He fought for the Moors, he fought for the Catholics, was known for his toughness, his ruthlessness. Little fun fact, I'm actually a descendant of El Cid. I'm not even making this up, I swear to God. Isn't that crazy? My parents just told me that like a few months ago. I was like, that's awesome, really, really cool. So you have one of the most ruthless soldiers in the history of Spain, descended this guy right here. Pretty cool. All right. Let's keep it moving. So we got the George Washington Bridge finished in the early 1930s, okay? This is a very important bridge. It's obviously one of the most, also one of the busiest bridges in the world. There's 14 lanes of traffic. It's famous for Bridgegate. In 2013, they closed the lanes of traffic and completely devastated traffic for the day. In fact, someone passed away in an ambulance. People got convicted, then their convictions got lifted. All they say for Chris Christie, huh? Bridgegate happened on this. Bridgegate, by the way, sounds like it was like, you know, a game room scandal at a nursing home or something, but it was actually a real scandal, 2013. All right, let's keep moving. Other immigrants, Jewish came here. They came here after World War II, or during World War II and before World War II. Sorry to escape, obviously. I don't really know something about a big war, and I don't know, something like, I did some research with this here. I don't know, I couldn't really get anything. If you guys want to know more about World War II, ask any old white man. They'll tell you plenty. All right, keeping it moving. Now you have the most recent, Dominicans, baby. The Dominicans come to New York, and they come here to Washington Heights. They're still a big part of the neighborhood. Some of the reasons they came. You have this guy, Rafael Trujillo. He was the dictator in the Dominican Republic until 1961 when he was assassinated. Yeah, this is another picture. This guy consented to this picture. It looks like it's his dating profile picture or something. I don't know. Very odd. But anyways, this guy was assassinated. Then it started this whole turmoil, right? There's like a civil war. There's too much turmoil. It's looking like some more liberal leaders are going to be put in place. So that leads to the shock of the night. United States invading, baby. They invaded, 42,000 troops invaded into this tiny country and install basically a friendly government. That was the Con Edison shock of the night. No, I'm just kidding. Well, that's not Con Edison. Yeah, Con Edison, they can eat my ass. All right, anyways, let's keep on. All right, here we go. Audubon Ballroom, baby, keep it moving. We're on Broadway. Audubon Ballroom used to be a ballroom. It's now owned by Columbia University. But this, importantly, in 1965 is where Malcolm X was assassinated. He was assassinated in Washington Heights. Kind of insane, very, very influential. We'll talk about some of the ways he's influenced in the past. But critics and admirers alike will agree that he was one of the most influential figures in the 20th century and that being assassinated is a small price to pay to have Denzel Washington play you in a movie. You know, it's pretty, you know, if you gotta go. Anyways, here we go, keep it moving. Gentrification. By the way, this is what they said the night he was assassinated to kind of test the security at the Audubon Ballroom to see what would happen if they yelled that out loud. Now, gentrification is the latest thing. We don't have enough time to cover this, but this is one of the threats going on in the neighborhood now. You have a lot of it kind of happening here today, but actually, interestingly enough, 2021, as recently as 2021, the New York Times said that this was the last bastion of affordability in Manhattan, actually, Washington Heights, which immediately made it the last bastion of unaffordability, because that's what happens. But this was as recent as 2021, so you can see why people would want to move there now. One of the big threats is rent-stabilized apartments getting taken over. This is one of the techniques that certain developers and things do. A lot of them are being held empty out there, believe it or not. They buy them up and they keep them empty. There's thousands of apartments right now, rent-stabilized apartments, just completely empty because they don't want to put anyone in, because then it's tougher to get them out. People will just stay put, and it's a real pain in the ass, so they just keep them empty, and they just take the loss until they can be converted, and then just rent them out at market rate. Pretty cool. One of the ways they get around it is renovations, baby. They renovate them, and that's one way. So if you ever go into like an old building with like a really cheesy apartment that's been renovated, that's what they're doing it for. They're doing it so they can rake you over the coals, you know? Anyways, not to go too long on that. Washington Heights, really great neighborhood. So much to it. There's diversity. There's obviously history. There's beautiful infrastructure. It's a really, really amazing neighborhood. One of my favorites in the city. And it's important to remember that these things all make up the neighborhood. It's not just restaurants and not just pretty views. It's the people as well. And we have to do this and we have to fight for it because otherwise, baby, it's all going to be, you know, 1920s, you know, juice bars with hip-hop yoga in the mornings, you know? And that's a burn, baby. That's another burn. Yeah, that's right. But anyways, that is Washington Heights. What do you think of that, huh? That's right. We covered a lot right there. That's a lot. That's a lot to cover. An amazing neighborhood. If you guys have never been there, you guys should check it out.